Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are, we warmly welcome each and every one of you on our Institution of Global Professionals free webinar. I am Sir Jason S. Humang, a licensed professional teacher and currently teaching at Caduanteta National High School from the country of the Philippines, and I'll be hosting today's episode. I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel really honored and privileged to host this webinar. It's also my delight to welcome you all in this Institution of Global Professionals free webinar. Again, I thank you all for joining us today in this marvelous evening, and it's my humble request and pleasure that you will all stay with us until the end, for I'm pretty sure you'll have many takeaways and payoffs from this episode. Moreover, you can like, comment, and even tag, share, and mention your friends in the comment box. So let's watch together and learn together because we believe that the power is gained by acquiring knowledge. Every day, some new participants join with us on our free webinars. And so, I have to give a little concept about what an IGP is all about. Institution of Global Professionals, or IGP, serves student and community resource, providing holistic social work and education to create a proficient generation. IGP is also a leading online skills development institute with thousands of learners worldwide. We are able to share information useful to expand knowledge, boost confidence to face any circumstance, and most importantly, to develop own skills. We are entrusted with international recognition. IGP also provides social works because we believe that it's not effective to increase one's skills just by acquiring formal education. And so, we provide effective training and consultation to provide proficient generation all over the world. IGP also organizes webinars, trainings, offline and online courses by the best and trained speakers, coaches from the entire world to create a best learning platform to you all. Our mission is also to empower people and provide each student a solid foundation of knowledge and skills to help them become a confident learner. And now, we have completed 328 episodes successfully. And we hope that you are getting benefited both in personal and professional life. And we wish that you all stay and remain with us throughout this journey. Before we begin our program, let me remind you once again, our lovely audience, to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends in the comment box because your attachment encourages us to do better and provide our best services to you all. And now, I am really excited to present to you our webinar 329 for our webinar series in the Research Comprehensive Approach. And today's research topic is all about the research design, respondents, and location. And our speakers for today are Ma'am Darren Joy D. Viscocho and Dr. Melet B. Sarmiento from the country of the Philippines. So let's start our program with IGP's mantra, feed your skills. Our first speaker is a teacher too from Nogsol Integrated School. So ladies and gentlemen, let's all give it up to Ma'am Darren Joy Viscocho.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. How about
Yes,
you?
I am doing great. Well, actually, I am really excited for today's presentation, and I know that it's not just me who is excited to listen for your presentation, but also our viewers.
I
Right?
hope
So,
our I hope our viewers will learn from this topic, sir. So,
absolutely, ma'am. They're really active, to be honest. Like whenever we're having a webinar, see, especially in research, our audience are really active. Anyway,
yes,
we're no
as I
longer
have
prolong
seen,
the
sir,
agony.
yes.
We're no longer prolong the agony of waiting. And
Yes, sir.
if you're ready on your presentation, ma'am, then take it away.
Thank you, Sir Jay.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So, good evening, everyone. Hello, IGP. It is my pleasure to be part of this. I will be discussing about research design. After this talk, I hope you will learn about what is research design, how to develop it, and types of research design. So, let's start. What is research design? So, if research method was as what have discussed in the strategy in the collection of data or evidences for analysis to uncover new information or arrive at a better understanding of a particular topic, while research methodology, it is the plan that explains why a particular research method is employed. So now, what is research design? It is the overview or the plan of the actual steps. It is a plan to answer the research question. The research design refers to the overall strategy that you choose to integrate the different components of the study in a coherent or in the more understandable way and logical way, thereby ensuring you will effectively address the research problem. It constitutes the blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of data. Note that research problem determines the type of design you should use, not the other way around, by DeVos 2001. The function of research design is to ensure that the evidence obtained enables you to effectively address the research problem logically and unambiguously as possible. Obtaining information relevant to the research problem generally entails specifying the type of evidence needed to test a theory, to evaluate a program, to accurately describe and assess meaning related to an observable phenomenon. With this in mind, a common mistake made by researchers is that they begin their investigations far too early before they have thought critically about what information is required to address the research problem. Without you attending to this design issues beforehand, the overall research problem will not be adequately addressed, and any conclusions drawn will run the risk of being a weak and unconvincing. As a consequence, the overall validity of of the study will undermine. So, in in the simplest way, we can say that research design is the most important aspect of research methodology. When you are aligning the design, you should focus on the purpose or the aims of your study. It describes the research mode and the specific research type. When we say research mode, it can be quantitative, qualitative, or both, which is the mixed methods. Specific research types can be historical, descriptive case study, and so on. And I will discuss it one by one later as we go on. Next, how are we going to develop a research design? First, identify the research problem clearly and justify its selection, particularly in relation to any valid alternative designs that could have been used. Review and synthesize previously published literature associated with the research problem. Next, clearly and explicitly specify hypotheses. Example given research questions central to the problem. Effectively describe the information and or data which will be necessary for an adequate testing of the hypothesis and explain how such information and or data will be obtained. Next, describe the methods of analysis to be applied to the data in determining whether or not the hypotheses are
Excuse
true.
me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Right, I am sorry for bothering you, for interrupting. Can you put your presentation on a full screen, ma'am?
Sir?
And it's not also moving. Can you put the
Ah,
presentation in
okay.
a full screen? And it's not also moving, ma'am.
Mm. Now, sir, is it moving now?
It turns blank.
Ah, okay.
We are
We'll
not seeing
just.
anything anymore, ma'am. Kindly present it again.
Okay, sir. The whole presentation, sir.
Yes, ma'am. There you go. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, are my screen visible now? Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, how to develop? So, describe the methods of analysis to be applied to the data in determining whether or not the hypotheses are true or false. The research design is usually incorporated into the introduction. You can get an overall sense of what to do by reviewing the literature of studies that have utilized the same research design. This can provide help you to develop an outline to follow your own paper. So, when deciding on your research design, the most effective approach is to start from the research focus that you want to investigate and for this to direct your decision making. First, you will need to consider whether your research focus would be best investigated through a qualitative approach, a quantitative approach, or an experimental approach, or mixed methods approach. At this point in the design of your research, it is also necessary to take into account your own skills and the available resources. For example, if a quantitative approach is most appropriate way of investigating a research question that you have identified, but you do not have a great deal of experience of a statistical analysis or only have access to a limited sample, it may be unrealistic to attempt a quantitative approach. And in this case, you may need to consider rethinking your question. So I have here, just want to share with you po the sample of research design that I have used in my study during my MA days. My title was Problem Encountered by School-Based Feeding Program Beneficiaries and Their Academic Performance. And as you can see, I use descriptive survey method design. I use books to describe descriptive design. And in writing this part, one or two paragraph is enough just to justify why your research use this kind of research design. So this is my research design. Next, types of research design. We have number one, experimental design. Experimental research is often used where there is time priority in a causal relationship. Cause precedes effect. There is consistency in a causal relationship. A cause will always lead to the same effect, and the magnitude of the correlation is great. The classic experimental design specifies an experimental group and a control group. The independent variable is administered to the experimental group and not to the controlled group. And both groups are measured on the same dependent variable. For example of experimental research design is uh, peer tutoring, its effect on the reading fluency of junior high school students. So the intervention here is peer tutoring. So we will divide the respondents into two. So we have the control group and the experimental group. And under experimental group, they are the one that will expose to the intervention. Experimental research design, it can be true, quasi, or experimental, pre-experimental. Next type, descriptive design, the one that I use in my study. Descriptive research design help provide answers to the question who, what, when, where, and how associated with a particular research problem. A descriptive study can conclusively ascertain answers to why. Descriptive research is used to obtain information concerning the current status of the phenomena and to describe what exists with respect to the variables or conditions in situation. So I have here sample of descriptive research design. So the one that I showed you, the my study, and another example is challenges of grade 10 students in online and printed modular distance learning modality. Another example I have here difficulties encountered by non research teachers in teaching research subjects to senior high school learners. Sample question in descriptive design are, for example, what is the level of satisfaction of the customers? What is the behavior of the students in an online class? So that's the examples of descriptive design. Another type, comparative research design. From the word comparative, we are comparing. This design is used to compare and contrast representative samples from two or more group subjects in relation to certain designated variables that occur in normal condition. For example, to find out the difference in wages between men and women, researchers have to make a comparative study of wages earned by both genders across various professions, hierarchies, and locations. None of the variables can be influenced, and cause effect relationship has to be established with a persuasive logical argument. Some common variables investigated in this type of research are achievement and other ability variables, family related variables, organismic variables such as age, sex, ethnicity, variables related to schools, personality variables. So we have correlational research design. It refers to a non-experimental research method which studies the relationship between two variables with the help of statistical analysis. Correlational research does not study the effects of extraneous variables on the variables under study. So, for example, consider hypothetically a researcher is studying a correlation between cancer and marriage. In this study, there are two variables, disease and marriage. Let us say marriage has a negative association with cancer. This means that married people are less likely to develop cancer. However, doesn't necessarily mean that marriage directly avoids cancer. In correlational research, it is not possible to establish the fact what causes what. It is a misconception that a correlational study involves two quantitative variables. However, the reality is two variables are measured but neither is changed. Next, we have evaluative research design. The design is used in making judgment of worth or value. It is conducted to elicit useful feedback from a variety of respondents from various fields to aid in decision making or policy information. For example, I have here HIV is highly prevalent in many parts of the world. World Health Organization initiated an injection campaign in some selected countries in the year 1989. After 2 years, the impact of this campaign was evaluated. The results were compared with another area where no such attack was launched. So as you can see, it takes a year to report findings in this kind of design. We have cohort design. Cohort design generally refers to a study conducted over a period of time involving members of a population which the subject or representative member comes from and who are united by some commonality or similarity. Using a quantitative framework, a cohort study makes note of statistical occurrence within a specialized subgroup united by same or similar characteristics that are relevant to the research problem being investigated rather than studying statistically occurrence within the general population. Using a qualitative framework, cohort studies generally gather data using of observation, methods of observations. Cohorts can be either open or closed. So the word cohort means it means a group of people. For example, one famous example of a cohort study is in the nurses' health study. So this was a large, long-running analysis of female health that began in 1976. It investigated the potential long-term consequences of the use of oral contraceptives. Another advantage is that cohort studies can collect a wide variety of data that researchers can use in many ways. A study on the impact of smoking, for example, might reveal links with multiple types of disease. Researcher can also assess how risky a factor is in comparison with others. Cohort studies also allow researchers to conduct studies that would otherwise be unethical. For example, an experiment where researchers deliberately expose participants to the cigarette smoke would be unethical. A cohort study allows scientists to study people who have chosen to smoke on their own. Another research design is action research design. The essentials of action research design follow a characteristic cycle whereby initially an exploratory instance is adapted, where an understanding of a problem is developed and plans are made for some form of interventionary strategy. Then, the intervention is carried out, the action in action research, during which time pertinent observation are collected in various forms. The new interventional strategies are carried out, and this cyclic process repeats, continuing until a sufficient understanding of the problem is achieved. The protocol is iterative or cyclical in nature and is intended to foster deeper understanding of a given situation, starting with conceptualizing and particularizing the problem and moving through several intervention, evaluations, and evaluations. So we teachers are very familiar with this kind of research design. We always do this whenever we find problems inside our classroom. Case study design. A case study is an in-depth study of particular research problem. Rather than a sweeping statistical survey or comprehensive comparative inquiry, it is often used to narrow down a very broad field of research into one or a few easily researchable examples. The case study research design is also useful for testing whether a specific theory and model actually applies to phenomena. In the real world, it is a useful design when not much is known about an issue or phenomenon. Case study are often a good choice in a thesis or dissertation. They keep your project focused and manageable when you don't have the time or resources to do large scale research. So, for example, how can teachers implement active learning strategies in mixed level classroom? So, case study of a local school that promotes active learning. The advantage of the case study research design is that you can focus on specific and interesting cases. This may be an attempt to test a theory with a typical case, or it can be a specific topic that is of interest. Research should be thorough and note taking should be meticulous and systematic. Another research design is cross sectional design. Cross sectional research design have three distinctive features.
Hello, ma'am.
Note, yes po.
Excuse me. I am sorry again for interrupting, but the slide is
It's okay,
not
sir.
scrolling down,
Working
ma'am.
again, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sir. I will restart. Mm, mm,
Yeah, because on our end, ma'am, we still have the descriptive design.
I will share it again, sir. My screen. How about now, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Kindly just put it in the full screen, ma'am.
It's already, sir, in a full screen. How about now, sir?
Yes, ma'am. We can actually see it, but it's not in the full screen.
Mm, how about now po?
Not yet, ma'am.
Mm. But in my screen, sir, it's already in a full screen. I will hide it again. How about now, sir?
Yes, ma'am. There you go.
Okay, sir. I will just continue.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Sir, so another research design is cross-sectional design. Cross-sectional research design have three distinctive features. No time dimension, a reliance on existing differences rather than change following intervention, and groups are selected based on existing differences rather than random allocation. The cross-sectional design can only measure differences between or far from among a variety of people, subjects, or phenomena, rather than process of change. As such, researchers using this design can only employ a relatively passive approach to make causal inferences based on finding. Next, although the majority of cross-sectional studies is quantitative, cross-sectional designs can be also a qualitative or mixed method in their design. Another design is exploratory design. An exploratory design is conducted about a research problem when there are few or no earlier studies to refer to or rely upon to predict an outcome. The focus is on gaining insights and familiarity for later investigation or undertaken when research problems are a preliminary stage of investigation. Exploratory designs are often used to establish an understanding of how best to proceed in studying an issue or what methodology would effectively apply to gathering information about the issue. Field research design, sometimes referred to as ethnography or participant observations, designs around field research encompass a variety of interpretative procedure. Example given, observation and interviews. Rooted in a qualitative approaches to studying people individually or in groups while inhabiting their natural environment as opposed to using survey instruments or other forms of impersonal methods of data gathering. Information acquired from observational research takes the form of field notes that involves documenting what the researcher actually sees and hears while in the field. Finding Findings do not consist of conclusive statements derived from numbers and statistics because field research involves analysis of words and observations of behavior. Conclusions, therefore, are developed from an interpretation of findings that reveal overriding themes, concepts, and ideas. Next is historical design. The purpose of historical research design is to collect, verify, and synthesize evidences from the past to establish facts that defend of or refute a hypothesis. It uses secondary sources and a variety of primary documentary evidence such as diaries, official records, reports, archives, and non-textual information such as maps, pictures, audio, and visual recordings. The limitation is that the sources must be both authentic and valid to support our hypothesis. Next, longitudinal design. A longitudinal study follows the same sample over time and makes repeated observations. For example, with longitudinal surveys, the same group of people is interviewed at regular intervals, enabling researchers to track changes over time and to relate them to variables that might explain why the changes occur. Next, we have here mixed method design. The mixed methods approach collects and uses quantitative and qualitative data in the same study. Mixed methods of research represents more of an approach to examining a research problem than a methodology. Mixed method is characterized by a focus on research problems that require an examination of real-life contextual and understanding multi-level perspectives and cultural influences. An intentional application of rigorous quantitative research, assessing magnitude and frequency of construct, and rigorous qualitative research, exploring the meaning and understanding of the constructs. And number three, an objective of drawing on the strengths of quantitative and qualitative data gathering techniques to formulate a holistic, interpretive framework for generating possible solutions or new understandings of the problems. Another design, we have observational design. This type of research design draws a conclusion by comparing subjects against a control group in cases where the researcher has no control over the experiment. Next is philosophical design. Philosophical analysis and argumentation is intended to challenge deeply embedded, often intractable assumption underpinning an area of study. This approach uses the tools of argumentation derived from philosophical traditions, concepts, models, theories to critically explore and challenge. For example, the relevance of logic and evidence in academic debates, to analyze arguments about fundamental issues, or to discuss the root of existing discourse about a research problem. Next is sequential design. Sexu- sec- Sequential research is that which is carried out in a deliberate stage approach, example serially, where one stage will be completed, followed by another, then another, and so on, with the aim that each stage will build upon the previous one until enough data is gathered over an interval. of time to test your hypothesis. The sample size is not predetermined. Next, we have systematic review. A systematic review is a specific methodology that identifies existing research about a well defined topic of investigations, usually derived from a public policy or clinical practice based problem. The designs involves selecting and critically evaluating the contributions of each identified study, analyzing and carefully synthesizing the data, and reporting the evidence in a way that facilitates clear conclusions about what is and what is not known. A systematic review can be either quantitative or qualitative. So, that will be all. Now, thank you for listening, sir. Sir J.
All right. So thank you
That will
so much, Ma'am Darren. Right. That was
Thank you,
really great.
sir.
Okay. So it's been an honor for us to hear that marvelous presentation. So yeah, like once again, I personally learned so much on your topic, research
Thank you
designs, the
so much, sir.
characteristics, the types, the research designs, and no doubt, not just me, but also our viewers learned so much, from those takeaway
Yes.
information you instilled in our minds. So once again, thank you so much, and that was Ma'am
Thank you,
Darren
sir.
Joy, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome, ma'am. Right. So once I guess it's now time for us to move on and our next speaker. Right. So she is a master teacher one at Gordon Heights Elementary School. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all put our hands together as we welcome on screen Dr. Millet B. Sarmiento.
Hello everyone. Good evening
Hello,
from the
ma'am. How are
Philippines.
you doing?
Yes, I'm good. Now I'm sharing my screen.
All right, ma'am. If you're ready, then take it away, ma'am.
Thank you. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, ma'am. But can we request to do the same thing, ma'am? Like do the full screen.
Okay. Hmm.
There you go. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Am I in full screen? Yes.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Am I in full screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There we go. Hmm. Okay. So hope everyone can hear me loud and clear. Hmm. So thank you. I'd like to acknowledge first my SDO Longopo family, headed by our very own Schools Division Superintendent, Ma'am Lailani Kunanan Seso 5. And of course, our principal from Gordon Heights 1 Elementary School, our one and only Dr. Marites Galara, and to our PSDS Dr. Priscilla Zonsa. And of course, my co-sped teachers, Ma'am Rachel, Ma'am Angeline, and Ma'am Vilma. So once again, good evening. Such a good opportunity to speak to you again for the second time. Because my first time here in IGP, I discussed about the learning at home, with regards to handling learners with special educational needs. So it's all about the special education. So this time we are on the research, of course, the methodology of research, part of the methodology of research, which is the respondents, the sampling, and the location. So it is my desire to share with you. I know to share with you something, about the research. Okay, so let's start. So here we go. Here are the topics. First is the respondents of the study. Second, criteria for choosing respondents. Third, sampling techniques. And of course, the research lookout. First, I'd like to ask our participants on how they understand or what is their description of respondents. what is respondents of the study? So let me check our chat pane. If you could please share your knowledge on what is your understanding about the respondents of the study before I continue my discussion. Okay, so let me check the chat box. Mm-hmm. Maybe the internet connection is not that good because I haven't seen some. Okay, so maybe late. Here we go. Hello, my Marites. Shout out. Oh. Okay, so what is respondents of the study? Here we go. So when we say respondents of the study, is that they say that respondents are those individuals who complete a survey or interview for the researcher or who provide data to be analyzed for the research study. Respondents can also be referred to be as participants. So when we say respondents, are those persons who have been invited to participate in a particular study and have actually taken part in the study. So when we say respondents, usually in qualitative research, for example, respondents generally answer, right? Uh, Respond or reply to the questions in qualitative studies or the questions asked by the researcher. So no more, no less, of course. Participants participate and answer questions in qualitative studies. For example, in interviews and focus groups. So furthermore, what is the difference between a subject and respondent? So let me reiterate to you what is the difference of subject and respondent. So as adjectives, the difference between respondent and subject is that respondent is disposed or expected to respond, answering, according, corresponding, while subject is likely to be affected by or to experience something. So here on, how do you create a research respondent? Okay, so full disclosure, make sure respondents know what they are doing and what they are in the study. Okay. Be creative, design with analysis in mind. Okay. So what is the respondent a job? So respondent is a company that pays you to participate in research studies. Their structure is much different than most online survey and applications. Respondent facilitates one-on-one consumer research, studies, and focus groups, both in person and in online. So can you see? That is respondents of the study. So here we go. The next one is that what are the criteria for choosing respondents? It is very important for us to know this criteria for us to have a better respondents. Of course, it is very important to complete our research, to complete our study, because we depend on the respondents on what will be their uh, response on the questionnaires that will um, of course, this is very important in research. No? So finding the appropriate respondents for your research really matters. Okay po? So, um, in criteria for choosing respondents, you can ask questions all day, but it won't get you anywhere if you're asking the wrong people. That's why it is very important to choose the correct people for your study. From groups to surveys, asking the right people will give you more relevant insights that are more likely to drive your business forward. But how do you know if your research population contains the right people? From focus groups So online surveys, you want to consider the following in order to find the best respondents for your research. Of course, the first criteria is that to know your research goals first. Why? To know your research goal first is that knowing your research objectives is the first step to determining who your ideal respondents are. Your target population should have first-hand experience with the questions you're trying to answer. So let's say you want to improve the quality of your existing restaurant business. In this case, it makes sense to target current and former customers. But what if your restaurant business has not yet gone live? Then you should target a population of potential customers. If you're hoping to gauge employee sentiment or correct issues within your organization, the suit might not be the most appropriate people to ask. Look to other employee instead. For every research need, there are some better suited to provide answers than others. Develop well-defined screening and targeting criteria. That's the second one. Okay? So what do we mean by this? Do you know what your ideal customers looks like? So we refer on the first example. No? Are they shopping in your store or online? How are they using your product? Are they male, female, well-developed customers profiles, or the target market theories? Will help you determine the type of population you need to target. So these profiles will play a large role in your screening and targeting criteria. So under this criteria, you have to define your ideal customer relevant to your research. Use demographics to target a certain age, group, gender, location, or any combination. Choose a committed, enthusiastic, and interested sample that is representative to your research. Determine how to communicate with your research participants in persons, in email, etc. Choose a sampling technique that works for your research and relevant to your goals. Cluster sampling, convenience sampling, judgment sampling, etc. So that is under the second criteria, which is to develop well defined screening targeting criteria. So, okay, so what about the next one? Sorry, but this is the third. Choose your sample size. So once you have determined who to ask, it's time to determine how many to ask. So that's what we meant by sample. It is the number. How many to ask? Without any appropriate sample size, you may not gain enough relevant information to draw useful conclusions from your research. So sample sizes will vary from project to project. How do you know what size is right for your research? How do you know what number? No? What size? So one major determining factor is whether your research is primarily qualitative or quantitative. A qualitative sample consists of verbal and written feedback in form of thoughts, opinions, and observations, while qualitative samples might include focus groups, in-depth interviews, observed product testing, or other discussions. So usually, qualitative research can be achieved using a smaller sample size. Quantitative research is more systematic and more involved statistically, mathematical, or computational techniques. Quantitative sample sizes need to be larger in order to get more representative results. Okay? So the next one is that participants are available in the given time. So it is very important that you have to be assured that, or to make sure that your participants is available, no? Okay. Make sure that your participants have enough time to grasp of the subject or case of the study at hand. Then the next one is that participants are knowledgeable. Okay, this is very important. Um, Make sure that the participants have enough grasp to subject or case of the study at hand. May I go back to the participants available in the given time? Is that your respondents must respond within a given time frame. Schedule, interview, and questionnaires, keeping the budget constraint in view. If a prospective respondent may not be able to show up within a given time, you will drop them and go for a more suitable one. Okay? So we have 5 criteria for choosing respondents. The next one is that let's continue in sampling techniques. So when we say sampling techniques is that sampling helps a lot in research. We know that in the part of the methodology of research, sampling techniques is also important. It is one of the most important factors which determining the accuracy of your research survey result. If anything goes wrong with your sample, then it will be directly reflected in the final result. There are a lot of techniques which help us to gather sample depending upon the need and situation. So to start with, let us have look on some basic terminology first. Okay, so we have uh, here the basic terminology and sampling techniques, which is the population, sampling, and sample. Okay, so what do we mean by population, sampling, and sample? Mhm. Uh-huh. So the population itself is that the population or the people itself that we're uh, referring to our respondents. The sampling is the process, of course, and the sample is the size or number of respondents that we are having for our research. Okay, so here we go. These are example of um, sampling techniques. The first one is the purposive sampling. The so-called purposive sampling, it involves um, choosing the participants based on demographic and other characteristics such as references, taste, income level, etc., in line with the nature and objectives of the study. Okay? So this is the base on the intention or the purpose of the study. Only those elements will be selected from the population which suits the best for the purpose of our study. So, for example, if we want to understand the thought process of the people who are interested in pursuing master's degree, then the selection criteria would be: Are you are you interested for masters in educational management or educational administration, masters in business management, masters in nursing, or etc. So all the people who respond with a no will be excluded from our sample. So it must be yes, because you're looking for those interested in continuing their master's degree. So that is purposive sampling. It must be in line on your purpose, why you are conducting your research. Okay? So that is purposive sampling. Unlike random sampling, in purposive one, the researcher actively engages in laying out the criteria for the informants. So only the respondents reasonably satisfying this criteria are invited to partake. So here we go. Convenience sampling. Convenience sampling, a researcher applies convenience sampling if they target the respondents who are easily available. The logic behind using this type of sampling for qualitative research is simple. As told, qualitative research takes a comparatively greater amount of time. So here, the samples are selected based on the availability. This method is used when the availability of sample is rare and also costly. So based on the convenience, samples are selected. For example, researchers prefer this during the initial stages of survey research, as it's quick and easy to deliver results. So the researchers, when faced with time constraints, may have to make smart choices. It makes sense to rely on people who are on hand rather than moving proposals with a number of respondents with the least assurance of their interest. Next is that quota sampling. Quota sampling is a type of non-probability sampling method. This means that elements from the population are chosen on a non-random basis and all members of the population do not have an equal chance of being selected to be a part of the sample group. Okay, so this type of sampling depends on some preset standard. It selects the representative sample from the population, proportion of characteristics, trait in sample should be sum as population. So elements are selected until exact proportions of certain types of data is obtained or sufficient data in different categories is collected. Okay, so for example of quota sampling is that our population has 45% females and 55% males. So then our sample should reflect the same percentage of males and females. Okay, so next we have opportunity sampling. So this one uses people from target population available at the time and willing to take part. It is an opportunity sample is obtained by asking members of the population of interest if they would take part in your research. Okay? So from the word opportunity itself. Opportunity sampling is a sampling technique used to select participants from a target group to take part in a research study. So it consists of the research selecting anyone who is available and willing to take part in the study. So that is opportunity. Next one is that random road sampling. The random road sampling enables contact to populations without a register. So what do you mean by this? Since this technique is used when no complete list of household is available, it is intended to create equal selection of probabilities. Okay, so we have here the snowball sampling. It is also called the referral. Okay, so we have referral or snowball sampling. Okay, it is a non-probability sampling technique where existing study subjects recruit future subjects from among their acquaintances. That the sample group is said to grow like a rolling snowball. So can you see? Can you imagine? No? This snowball sampling. Okay? So this technique is used in the situations where the population is completely unknown and rare. Therefore, we will take the help from the first element while we select for the population and ask him to recommend other elements who will fit the description of sample needed. So this referral technique goes on increasing the size of population like a snowball. So for example, it's used in situation of highly sensitive topics like HIV, HIV/AIDS, where people will not openly discuss and participate in surveys to share their information about HIV/AIDS because we all know that this topic is very sensitive and we all know that most of course, we all know that these people who has HIV/AIDS we will not easily to come up and participate in this research because this is very sensitive. So not all the victims will respond to the questions asked. So researchers can contact people they know or volunteers to get in touch with the victims and collect information. So helps in this situation where we do not have the access to sufficient people because most of these uh, people who have HIV/AIDS, for sure, they are hiding their uh, identities, their selves. So, if we do not have the access to sufficient people with the characteristics we are seeking, it starts with finding people to study. Okay. Next is that we have the so-called random sampling. Okay. So in random sampling, a better way to go about is to randomly pick a decent number of participants. It will come with the probability that the targeted subset of the population is diverse enough to represent the population as a whole. Okay, so we have different types of random sampling. Okay, we have different types of random sampling. And the first one is that the simple random sampling. So it is when you choose participants from a large population without regard to any characteristics. So as you can see in the picture, a better way to go about hmm, a better way to go about it is the randomly pick a decent number of participants. It will come with the probability that the targeted subset of the population is diverse enough to represent the population as a whole. Okay, so for example, random selection of 20 students from class of 50 students. So the total of 50 students, and we'll just randomly choose only 20. Each sub student has equal chance of getting selected. Okay, so here's the probability of selection is 1 over 50. Okay, so next is that we have the so-called cluster sampling. It involves dividing the entire sampling frame into small clusters and then randomly picking the clusters. So you can pick as many clusters as desired depending on the needs and budget, of course. So it means that our entire population is divided into clusters or or sections, no, not only cluster but also sections rather. And then the clusters are randomly selected. All the elements of the cluster are used for sampling. Clusters are identified using details such as age, sex, location, etc. Okay, so cluster sampling can be done in the following ways. We have the single stage cluster sampling, wherein entire cluster is selected randomly for sampling. We also have the so-called two-stage cluster sampling, no, wherein the first we randomly selected clusters, and then from those selected clusters we randomly select elements for sampling. Okay, so here we go. Next is that we have the stratified sampling. Okay, it is one of the most widely used methods which involves dividing a population into subsets with shared characteristics. For example, the high income group, low income group. Actually, as I remembered in my dissertation, this is what I used in my research, the stratified sampling. So, stratified random sampling is a method of sampling that involves dividing a population into similar groups called strata. Okay, so we have the term strata, which in the groups or strata are organized based on the shared characteristics or attributes of the members in the group. The process of classifying the population into groups is called stratification. Okay, so that is what stratified sampling all about. The next one is the so-called systematic sampling. So if your research calls for insights on what every second, third, or fifth person says about something, Systematic sampling is going to be the top choice. You obtain the KTH or kit number by dividing the total population, which is the capital N, by the number of participants in the subset of the population, which symbolize the smaller n. Okay. For example, you have to conduct a survey on the customer's opinion about the quality of food in a fast food restaurant. So let's say the restaurant serves 100 customers on average every single day, and you think responses from 20 customers would be highly representative. So here your size is 100, and the sample size that you're getting is 20. So how will we have it? So let's apply the formula, which is the capital N over N is equal to KTH or kith, which is uh, we have the 100, and then we're only getting 20. It is equal 5 to, which will be, hence you can randomly approach it as fifth. Okay, the responded as fifth customer pouring out of the restaurant. Okay, so uh, we have here the sample respondents of the study. This is from this example is from one of the studies of my friend, which is the research study. Respondents will be the grade 9 students of Catholic schools, school division office of Olongapo City. So here the table 1 shows the frequency distribution of respondents by school. So we have 4 schools there, which is the Columban College, Asinan, Columban College Pareto, St. Joseph College, and St. Anne Academy. Um, a total of selected 150 grade 9 students and 10 teachers will be the respondents of the research study. So who are the respondents? The teachers and the students. So that is the distribution of the sample respondents of the study. Okay, let's go now to the research local. Okay, so the word local, of course, the word local simply means a place or area, right? You use the word when you are talking about events or actions connected to the place. Okay? Uh, so a research local is simply the place, of course, the place where research takes place. So local, place. For example, for a medical study, the locale may be a hospital. It's very similar to the word location. So we have the terms here, the local, place, location. So now that is how we simply understand what locale is. Research locale is a term that refers to a specified area and or subject that is being studied in a research project. So that is research locale. Research locale is a term that refers to a specified area and a subject that is being studied in a research project. So there are also some parts, of course, there are parts of research locale. The first one is that description of the location of the study. So when we say the description of the location of the study is that location of study refers to the geographic location. When we say description, you have to describe the location, of course, what is the place or the location where your research uh, is being conducted. Of course, it is the geographic location uh, specified according to maybe the boundaries, the current at the time the data are collected, not the boundaries at the time of the study, but the boundary of the place itself. Okay, so that is the research study. Yeah, here we go. This is an example of the research study will be conducted in the 4 Catholic schools. So this refers to the picture I presented a while ago, wherein the distribution of the respondents was being presented. So the research study will be conducted in the 4 Catholic schools in Olongapo City, mainly Columban College, Asinan, Columban College, Pareto, St. Anne, St. Joseph College and St. Anne Academy. So that's it. And then the second one is, what is the parts of research local? Okay, so the map of the location of the study. Uh, it is very important that you have to show it in your research, of course. In the body of your research is the map of the location. Okay, the map of the location of the study is that we all know that the basic knowledge in map is that it is the uh, what we meant by map is that it is a thing, or a map is meant to help identify the placement of things, of place, of course, the location of the places, the buildings, or whatever, in a physical space. Okay, so that means that one of the most fundamental duties of a map is to provide us a sense of location. Location in technical terms is a point of physical space. So maps depict physical space, the items or the place uh, are the locations. So the ultimate function of map is to record and determine the location of things and places. So this is an example of a figure wherein it shows the map showing the location of the school respondents. So it refers again to the respondents, or the locations wherein the research study was conducted. Okay, there is the Columban College, St. Anne Academy, St. Joseph College, and Columban College as seen. So that is the map of Olongapo showing the location of the four Catholic schools where the research study was conducted. Okay, so I'm so happy. That's all about my topic. That's all. Thank you very much. I hope everyone, that everything that I discussed here, uh, uh, you learned a lot that must be remembered, of course, and be applied in your research study so that you can also use it to share it with others. So thank you very much once again, everyone. Keep safe and God bless us all.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Milet B. Sarmiento. That was really amazing. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your presentation, your extravagant
Thank you.
presentation regarding your topic, respondents and location. So, how the respondents are being significant in gathering data, the criteria in choosing the correct people to get relevant insights on our research study, what type of sampling techniques are we going to use in our research, the location of the study or the research local, and many more. So those are some of the takeaway information that I've had during your discussion, ma'am. Right? So definitely not just me, but also our viewers once again learned so much and gained so much takeaway information from you as well, ma'am. Thank you not only for sharing your knowledge, but most importantly for sharing your valuable time with us today. Right, so once again, Dr. Milet B. Sarmiento, ladies and gentlemen. Right, thank you so much, ma'am. Once again, may I request you, ma'am, and ma'am Darren, Joy, to please stay in the other line while we wait for the question and answer later on. So thank you so much once again. Right, so before moving on to the next part of our program, once again, may I request you all to please support IGP. All you have to do is to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends. We will give e-certificate link in the comment box later on, and if you face any problem, you can collect e-certificates directly from our website, www.eduigp.com. Right, so I guess we're now ready on our quiz competition. All right, so to our new participants, all you have to do is to type in on the search engine slido.com or the www.slido.com. And for our code, it's IGP quiz, right? So then add on your name that will appear exactly on your certifications. All right, so again, to those who are new um, in taking our quiz, right here in IGP, all you have to do is to go to www.slido.com, and for the code, just type in or enter IGP quiz and on your name, and add on your name that will appear exactly on your certifications. So so far we have 58, right? So participants on our screen. Okay. So going 59, 60, right? So we're going to start our quiz in a couple of minutes. Okay, so once again, to those people who are new in taking the IGP quiz, all you have to do is to go to www.slido.com, right? So add on the name, that will appear exactly on your certifications. So right now we have 67 participants. Okay, so we are now 70. All right, so here's our first question. It refers to the overall strategy that you can choose to integrate the different components of the study in a coherent and logical way. Research design or research analysis. Overall strategy that will choose to integrate the different components of the study in a coherent and logical way. Right? So 90% says research design, and the correct answer here is research design. All right, so let's check on the leaderboard. Okay, so Romel John C. Aquino is leading, followed by Dennis Ginto Serso and Ginalyn V. Resurreccion. Okay, so let's now proceed on question number two. It follows a characteristic cycle whereby initially an exploratory stance is adopted. Is it case study design or action research design? It follows a characteristics whereby initially an exploratory stance is adopted. Case study design or action research design. Okay, so the correct answer for question number two is the action research design. Okay, so let's check the leaderboard. So still, Romel John C. Aquino is leading, followed by Dennis Ginto, Serso. Jean Lynn V. Restriction is our third placer. All right, so let's now proceed on question number three. It provides answer to the questions of who, what, when, where, and how associated with a particular research problem. Is it descriptive design or experimental design? Again, it provides answers to the question of who, what, when, where, and how associated with a particular research design, descriptive or experimental. Okay, so 86% answered descriptive design. And that is our correct answer. Okay, so let's check the leaderboard. Dennis Ginto Serso, okay, is now leading, followed by Ariel Mabansag and Sir Nico Den Esmiro. Are those individuals who completely survey or complete a survey or interview for the researcher, or who provide data to be analyzed for the research study? Are they the researchers or the respondents? Those individuals who have completed or complete a survey or interview for the researcher, or those people who provided data to be analyzed for the research study. Okay, so 91% says respondents, and that is our correct answer. Okay, so for the leaderboard, on the first place, we have Dennis Ginto Serso, followed by Ariel Mabansag, and Nico Den Esmiro. All right, so let's now have our question number 5. A researcher applies this if they target the respondents who are easily available. Is it purposive sampling or the convenience sampling? A researcher applies this if they target the respondents who are easily or who can easily do the gathering of data. Is it the purposive or the convenient sampling? Right? So the correct answer is the convenience sampling. Okay, so Dennis Ginto, Serso, still leading. Then Nico Den Esmiro. Ariel B. Mabansag, right, for the third place. So it involves dividing the entire sampling frame into small cluster and randomly picking the clusters. You can pick as many clusters as desired depending on the number or the needs and the budget. Is it simple random sampling or cluster sampling? 81% says cluster sampling, and that is our correct answer. Nico Den Esmiros leading, followed by Janelle Miranda and Dennis Quinto Serso. It is one of the most widely used methods, which involves dividing a population into subsets with shared characteristics. Is it stratified sampling or systematic sampling? Dividing a population into subsets with shared characteristics, stratified or systematic sampling. Right, so the correct answer is stratified sampling, the strata, as they say earlier. Okay, Nico Den Esmiro, Dennis Ginto Serso, and Ariel B. Mabansag. It may be thought of an understanding a phenomenon in terms of conditional statements in the form. Is it casual research design or cohort research design? Again, may be thought of as understanding a phenomenon in terms of conditional statements in the form of casual research design or cohort research design. Causal research design is the correct answer. Like 58% got the correct answer. Right? So Nicoden Esmiro again still leading. Then followed by Dennis Quinto Serso and Ariel B. Mabansag for the third place. Let's now have our second to the last question specifies an experimental group and a control group. Okay, is it descriptive design or experimental design? Again, specifies an experimental group and a control group, descriptive or experimental design. Of course, the correct answer here is experimental design. Right? So Ariel B. Mabansag is now leading, followed by Rodolfo F. Alemania Jr. Lamberto S. Pilatan Jr. is our third placer. And our last question we have uses people from target population available at the time and willing to take part. Is it quota sampling or opportunity sampling? Uses people from target population that are available at the time and willing to take part. Is it quota sampling or opportunity sampling? Okay, so the correct answer here is opportunity sampling. Right? So let's now have our top 10. Okay, so congratulations to the following. First, we have Ariel B. Mabansag. All right, so uh, our second place, we have Lamberto S. Pilatan Jr. Then we have Nico Den Esmiro. Fourth place, we have Rodolfo F. Alemania Jr. Then on our fifth place, we have Joel A. Bernasor. Then we have Jason Cruz for our sixth place. Our seventh place, we have Romel John C. Aquino. Eighth place, we have Dennis Ginto Serso. Our ninth placer, we have Nico Dan Esmiro. And our top 10 is Anna Marie Joy A. Mercado. Right. So once again, congratulations to our top 10 winners. Right. So at this juncture, let's now call back once again on screen our amazing speakers. So Ma'am Darren Joy D. Biscocho and Dr. Milet B. Sarmiento also joining us today on our research webinar series. For our question and answer is our research expert, Dr. Arnold D. Alvaro. All right, so thank you so much for staying with us today, Ma'am Darren, Dr. Millet, and Dr. Arnold. Okay, so, right, we now have our question and answer. All right, audience, you can start sharing your question with us. If you have, again, any confusion or any clarifications, or if you wanted to learn more on our research, our topic for today's webinar, the research design respondents and the location, then you can actually share it with us. Right? Again, if you have any confusion or any clarification on our topic, then you can share it with us. Okay, so we're just waiting for our question. I guess they all understand the topic for today. They don't have any confusion. Probably was well explained. That's why they don't have question. But we'll see.
Actually, there's one question I am seeing.
Oh yeah, here. We have our first question from Ma'am Sharival A. Estrada. What is the best research design for conducting the school dropout? So I guess this one is for Ma'am Darren.
What is the best research design for conducting the school dropout? I think the descriptive survey method, sir.
Descriptive
That will be
survey
the best
method.
research design. Yes, sir.
For in
For
conducting
the
the
school
doc
dropout.
school dropout. Right. So thank you so much, Ma'am Darren. Okay, so we have another question from Sir Rabi Alcohol. To any of the speakers, what type of research design should we use if the title of the study is Senior High School Teachers Challenges in Converting Classes to Distance Learning in the COVID-19 Pandemic? What type of research design should we use if the title of this study is the Senior High School Teachers Challenges in Converting Classes to Distance Learning in the COVID-19 Pandemic? So another research design question.
Okay, I will answer that. So, senior high school teachers challenges. We are looking for the challenges that senior high school teachers encounter during the converting classes to distance learning. So we will use the descriptive this design so that those teachers will describe what they have encountered during the distance learning. So that is my answer for that is descriptive design.
Okay, so descriptive research design. Right, so thank you so much, Sir Arnold. Okay, so let's now have our next question. Slovin's formula reliable in computing sample size from Sir Jimboy D. Gasco. Right, again, is Slovin's formula reliable in computing the sample
Um,
size?
Actually, the Sloven's formula is usable. It depends upon the decision of the university. Another one, I forgot the another sample as a computing sample size aside from Slovens, but the difference for that is only a two or three or something like that. Actually, this Sloven's formula is advisable from many researchers and experts. So Sloven's formula, yeah. But again, it depends on the university or colleges.
Okay, so thank you so much again, Sir Arnold, on our for answering our third question. Okay, so let's now have another question from a Facebook user. Which is the best formula for selecting sample population? If registered patients are 5,398, best formula for selecting sample population if the registered patients are 5,398.
May I answer again? Actually, the best formula for that is it's Sloven. I always use the Sloven's formula. Since it will lessen lessen again. There's some university they are encouraging um they are what do you call this, they are giving us the required. For example, in one university that I have been uh, uh, working with is that they are for masteral they are using at least 150 to 300. For the doctoral they are requiring for us to have at least you have the 600 respondents. Again, it depends again for
Mm,
your university. You should ask your research advisors or the director of the graduate school if what is the allowable number. But if they will not give you the exact number, then you can use the Sloven's formula for your convenience. Yeah.
okay, so thank you so much again, Sir Arnold. Okay, so another question from Ma'am Carol Cepillo. So, any of the speakers, what makes a strong research question? What makes a strong research question?
Good evening again. I will answer that again.
I
Sorry for that
try ko
speaker.
po.
Okay, sige, sige. Let's try, ma'am.
To make it strong, I think it should not just be answerable by yes or no, but you should begin on how or why. That's all, sir.
So, open-ended
Yeah,
question.
yes.
Yes, open-ended
Yes.
question.
Yes, I agree with Ma'am Darren. Especially we are not especially with Ma'am Darren, yeah, the answer is without using the yes or no. Why? We should uh actually, if you are looking for the descriptive design, if we were using the descriptive design, the advisable number or Likert scaling that we could use is 1 to 4. It is not advisable to use 5 again. It's a very classical. It's the old way. So now it's in its standard in the university that I am engaging now. Uh, at, we are using the 4 scaling. So 1 is the lowest and 4 is the highest. So that's just not just 1 to 2 or the yes or no or true or false. So you just fall on between 1 to 4. That is advice. And
So,
another thing to make it stronger, you should answer again. The research question should answer your title itself.
okay.
Can
So,
I
he's
can
using
I
the.
answer also? I'd like to
All
share
right, sure,
something.
Doc.
Okay, what makes a strong research, right? Yeah, I have read this in a one article, of course, that uh, a good research question should be, it must be clear and focused. In other words, the question should clearly state what the writer needs to do, not too broad and not too narrow, not too easy to answer, but not too difficult to answer also. It is researchable and, of course, analytical rather than descriptive. That's all.
Mm, Open-ended, analytical, rating scale. All right, I remember those answers. Okay. Right. So, from Ma'am Ruth Falconet. So, what research design should be used if this is my chosen title? Attitudes and problems of high school teachers in accepting the new normal. Basis for development program. So, like, what research design again should be used if the chosen title, attitudes and problems of high school teachers in accepting the new normal, basis for development program.
Based on her study, sir, I can suggest she can use descriptive survey method again, research design. Since the new normal is the phenomena
Yeah.
of the world nowadays. So she can use descriptive survey research design, sir.
Right. So,
Um,
descriptive for
okay, thank you, Ma'am
phenomenological
Darren.
study.
May I add again? Okay,
Sure.
so when we use again, it depends on your statement. Sorry, it depends on your state how you will do your statement of the problem. So in our university, we are the our advisors, our teachers, we are encouraging not to use the effectivity, not to use the relationship, not to use the correlational and so on and so forth. So for that title, attitudes and problems, maybe we in our statement of the problem we can include the differences, the relationship between attitudes and problems. Therefore, we can use another one that is descriptive correlational. Again, from Ma'am Darren, they will describe the attitudes and problems, but we can include again the correlational design, wherein we have to correlate the attitudes and the problems if they are related or not, whether if the attitude is higher or sorry sorry, the attitude is higher, therefore the problems would be higher or lower. So it depends. So it depends again on your how you will do your statement of the problem and how this statement of the problem will relate to your title.
I'm sorry. Right. So another question from a Facebook user. So here in Pakistan, researcher follow Taro Yamini and Uma Sekaran. So like, is it good? Here in Pakistan, researcher follow Taro Yamini and Uma Sekaran. Is it good?
Actually, we are not. I am not familiar with this Taro Yamini and Uma Sikaran. So maybe Ma'am Millet or Ma'am Darren. If they not, I will try to translate your word. So later on, I will answer. So we can go on with another question. I will answer that. Yeah, the Taro Yamini and Uma Sikaran. Okay, if you may.
I think Taro Yamini is a competition. I think is that a
Um,
competition of uh, in a study, and Uma Sekaran is a research methods. I'm sorry, here in the Philippines, we're not so familiar with Taro Yamini and Uma Sekaran. I'm so sorry. uh, we maybe that is from the other country or in Pakistan, right? We're not so familiar with the term, but maybe if it will be translated in English, maybe we could understand what really it is. The two, Taro Yamini and Uma Sekaran.
Thank you
Am I
so
right,
much.
Sir Arnold? We're not so familiar with
Yeah,
the
we're
term.
not familiar with that. I'm
I'm so
using the
sorry.
Google Translator, but I can answer
Yeah,
later on.
actually, same thing with me, sir. I am trying
Both
to
are
search it, but yeah, I am not seeing any word that matches the question.
Taro.
So, okay, for another question for Sir Rabi Alcohol, when do we use Likert scale method? Does it applicable to a qualitative study? Likert scale
Um,
method.
yes, I will answer that. Like a scale method is used only in if for the word scale, it means quantitative. So we have if we can measure within like a scaling 1 to 4, or if you have 1 to 5 again. So in qualitative study, we are looking for the answer of the respondents. For example, actually I'm not encouraging my friends and my colleagues use qualitative because it's very difficult because we have to provide the results and discussion together at the end of our paper. We have the transcription, so all of the things that we gather through recording and so on and so forth, we will include that in our results and discussion to get again in another one in our transcription. That's very again, we should make our research easier. We will not make it more harder or make it harder.
Complicated.
It's up to us. Yeah, make don't make it complicated.
Yeah, I agree, sir. It's really hard because I am handling the subject qualitative research right now.
But if you want that qualitative, we can do that. But if the our advisors or teachers allowed us to use quantitative, then we must go with the quantitative. But if they are using qualitative, again, the difference with that, the qualitative only the advisable respondents is 1 to 5, or some of the universities using 40, but it's too difficult for us to have 40 respondents, and we have to transcribe those responses. So it's very difficult. So again, if they are allowing us to use quantitative, be it.
And also the data from the Likert scale is that the Likert scales and it's continuous. For example, from 1 to 10, am I right, Sir Arnold? So the rating scales are really quantitative. These scales assume equal intervals between points. So we have number there It must be quantitative. It is advisable to use quantitative actually. So like what I use in my my dissertation, I use Likert scale.
Right. Okay, so we have another question from Ma'am Evelyn Maperli. So any of the speakers, what is the basis that the research design is good? So do we have any basis that the research design is good?
Sir, we don't have any basis, but a good research design should always fulfill the following four conditions: the objectivity, the reliability, the validity, and the findings. Sir.
Yes, as
Right?
long as you answer, as long as you can answer, okay? As long as you can answer the statement of the problem. Therefore, if you choose, for example, use a descriptive and you are SOPs, also can be answered using the descriptive design. Therefore, you can use the descriptive design. But if you use, for example, if your study is about experimental design, therefore you can use experimental design. It again, it depends on your title and your SOP.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, and another question from Ma'am Charivel A. Estrada. Is it possible in an action research study to only have 5 respondents? Right? So is it possible in a research study to only have 5 respondents?
Actually, the answer for that is, for me, action research. Okay, in our previous sessions, for I think it's about 5 months or more than that, I discussed about the applied in action. If you could remember that. So this actually the action research is it it reflects the effectiveness of the intervention that you use. And another one for applied is refers to this description, how you will describe or what are the problems that we can encounter. So that is the basis for your action research in the future. So for that, if you use five, actually, I have, as I have said earlier, 5 respondents is for the qualitative. If you want to know that, you can use again the qualitative design wherein you can use the applied, wherein you are inquiring or we have the inquiry. So that is my answer. If other speakers will give their answers, they could.
Okay, so another question from 26CSG Kumar. So like, what is the basis of the research? So what is the basis of the research?
Okay. The basis of the research again, we have to look for the problems in our surroundings. We have to look, for example, if you when you are after sleeping or you are awake, okay, in the morning we are browsing the internet, we are browsing the Facebook, Instagram, so we can look problems within it. And then another thing, if we are going to the school, look for the problems in our classroom. So that is the basis of the research. We have to base our research on what is the problem and how we can solve the problems that we can encounter as we go in our work or as we go in everything around us.
Okay, so
Ma'am
thank you.
Milet, we can add. Ma'am Darren.
Okay, addition to that is that we knew that why we are conducting research is that we have the purpose. Okay, we have the purpose. The purpose of the research is to improve on the existing knowledge or to discover new knowledge. So to discover new knowledge, well, the purpose of the research is to solve specific problems. So that's why those are the basis. No, we are solving the problems. That's why we are conducting research.
All right. So thank you so much. And I guess that's the end of our question and answer portion. And I think that concludes our webinar for today. All right. So thank you so
Thank you,
much to our
everyone.
amazing speakers who have contributed a lot in today's episode: research design, respondents, and location. So like once again, never ending gratitude to our magnificent speakers for today. I'm Darren Joy, D. Viscosio, and Dr. Millet D. Sarmiento for sharing their precious time and expertise with us today. Right. So also thank you to Sir Arnold for joining us today on our question and answer. Right. So thank you so much, sir. Okay. So before we conclude our webinar for today, any final word, Ma'am Darren Joy Viscoso and Dr. Milet B. Sarmiento?
I'd like to thank, of course, IGP for giving us opportunity and for letting us share our knowledge and, of course, our expertise on the some of the topics that were assigned to us. Of course, Dr. Arnold Alvaro for for giving me this chance again. Well, actually, IGP is messaging me to give my topics again and for scheduling me once again to maybe by March or April. But then Dr. Arnold Alvaro messaged me that I have to present my topic for today. So, of course, he's a good friend of mine and I cannot let him down. And for IGP family, of course, this is my second time. I'm so grateful for being one of your members and for giving us opportunity to share, of course, knowledge to all of the viewers, participants of this online, of course, organization or uh, what's this, a training platform for us for additional knowledge. Thank you very much, IGP family. Sir Jay, of course, our host for today, Dr. Arnold D.
Thank you,
Alvaro,
ma'am.
and of course, we have here Ma'am Darren Joy. Thank you very much for having you here. Thank you very much to all, and I hope to see you once again. To see you all again for another training and for new updates in special education. Of course, I am planning, I am preparing the topics and also with my team, my members for the next schedule. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am Darren.
Same also with Dr. Millet. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doc Arnold Alvaro. Thank you, Sir G. Actually, this is my first
Thank
time.
you.
I hope the viewers learned uh, from us tonight. So, yun. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much once again to our amazing speakers, Ma'am Darren Joy D. Viscoso and Dr. Melet B. Sarmiento from the Philippines. Right. So thank you, ma'am and sir. Okay. So dear knowledge seeker, I would love to thank you all for attending today's session and hopefully you've learned something new and something interesting today. Right. So please leave a review or comment our page if you learned something wonderful on our discussion for the day. So, like once more, do not forget to collect your e-certificate and to give a check-in with IGP. Spread the information with your friends, and we hope to see you all again on our next webinar. So, thank you so much for staying with us, and I hope to see you all again on our next episodes. So, once again, I am Sir Jason S. Humang saying thank you, be safe, and stay happy always. Thank you.